They don't look powerful, they don't sound intimidating, and they were never meant to stand out. These pickups came from a time when rules were loose and ideas were reckless. Some were too small, some were too strange. Others blended muscle car power with truck beds and confused everyone. These are 10 of the rarest and weirdest pickups from the 1970s. Machines history quietly ignored, but drivers never forgot. Stay till the end, because some of the most unbelievable pickups ever built were not meant to make sense, only to exist. 10. Mazda REPU. The Mazda REPU never tried to impress at first sight. It was a small, lightweight pickup with modest proportions, the kind of truck most people would overlook without a second thought. Its short bed, clean body lines, and restrained design offered no clues to how unconventional it really was. In a decade ruled by big engines and brute strength, the REPU felt misplaced, and that quiet, misfit identity is exactly what turned it into one of the strangest pickups the 1970s ever produced. What set the REPU apart lived under the hood. Instead of a conventional piston engine, Mazda installed its 13B rotary, a power plant no other manufacturer was bold enough to put in a pickup. Producing around 110 horsepower and 117 pound-feet of torque, the rotary delivered power in a way truck drivers had never experienced. There was little low-end shove, but the engine loved to rev, pulling harder the higher it climbed. The sound was sharp and mechanical, closer to a sports car than a workhorse. That high-revving nature completely changed how the REPU behaved on the road. With a relatively light curb weight and rear-wheel drive, it felt agile and surprisingly quick, capable of hitting 0 to 60 miles per hour in roughly 9 seconds. Impressive for a 1970s pickup, but that liveliness came with risks. The short wheelbase and lack of torque made traction unpredictable, especially with an empty bed. Push it too hard, and the rear could step out suddenly, catching unprepared drivers off guard. The Mazda REPU wasn't weird just because it had a rotary engine. It was weird because it refused to follow any pickup rulebook. Half experiment, half statement, it remains one of the rarest and most unconventional trucks ever produced. A pickup that behaved nothing like a pickup, and that's exactly why it's still remembered today. 9. AMC Gremlin Pickup. The AMC Gremlin Pickup looked like something that should never have existed, and almost didn't. Based on one of America's strangest compact cars, this pickup variant appeared awkward, chopped, and borderline absurd. From the front, it was unmistakably a gremlin. From the rear, it tried to be a truck. The result was a vehicle that confused everyone who saw it, especially in an era when pickups were expected to be tough, purposeful, and masculine. But beneath the odd proportions sat real muscle-era hardware. Most Gremlin-based pickups used AMC's inline-6 or optional V8 powertrains, and in V8 form, things became genuinely dangerous. The 5-liter AMC V8 produced around 150 horsepower and roughly 245 pound-feet of torque, serious output for such a short, lightweight chassis. With rear-wheel drive and a wheelbase never designed for hauling or stability, the Gremlin pickup had far more power than its platform could comfortably manage. Acceleration felt abrupt and unruly. The front end lifted under throttle, while the rear struggled for grip, especially with an empty bed. Steering inputs had to be measured because sudden corrections could unsettle the car instantly. This wasn't a refined machine. It was raw, unbalanced, and completely unpredictable, especially when pushed hard. What made the Gremlin pickup truly weird wasn't just how it looked. It was the fact that it combined compact car dimensions with V8 torque and pickup utility in a way that made no engineering sense. Whether built as a factory-backed concept or dealer conversion, it represented the anything-goes experimentation of the 1970s. The AMC Gremlin pickup wasn't designed to be good, it was designed to exist, and that alone made it one of the strangest, rarest, and most unforgettable pickup oddities of the decade. Number 8. Volkswagen Rabbit Pickup Caddy. Nothing about the Volkswagen Rabbit pickup, known globally as the Caddy, suggested it belonged in the pickup world at all. Small, boxy, and clearly derived from a compact economy car, it didn't resemble a traditional truck in any sense. With its short bed, thin tires, and front-wheel drive layout, it appeared built for light errands rather than hard labor. In the 1970s pickup landscape, it felt completely out of place. But that modest appearance hid a surprisingly sharp and demanding personality. Under the hood sat Volkswagen's inline-4 engines, most commonly the 1.6-liter units. In gas-powered form, the Rabbit pickup produced around 78 horsepower and roughly 80 pound-feet of torque, numbers features that sound tame but told only half the story. With a curb weight far lower than most American trucks and power sent to the front wheels, the Caddy reacted instantly to driver input. On the road, it felt far quicker and more agile than expected. Steering was light and direct, and the short wheelbase made direction changes immediate. But that responsiveness came with trade-offs. Load the bed unevenly or push hard into corners, and the front tires could lose grip without warning. Under braking, weight transfer was abrupt, and the rear felt nervous when unladen. It demanded attention, not aggression. What made the Rabbit pickup truly weird wasn't speed, it was philosophy. This was a pickup designed around efficiency, not strength. It carried cargo like a truck, but drove like a small hatchback pushed beyond its comfort zone. Drivers who underestimated it often found themselves surprised by how quickly it could get unsettled. The Volkswagen Rabbit pickup wasn't built to dominate job sites. It was built to challenge what a pickup could be, and in doing so, it became one of the most unconventional and quietly demanding trucks of the 1970s. Stick around and subscribe, because what's coming next pushes these pickups from strange into outright undermine. 7. Subaru BRAT. The Subaru BRAT never looked like it was trying to be taken seriously. Compact, oddly shaped, and closer in size to a hatchback than a truck, it came across as playful rather than practical. Its small bed and unusual proportions made many people dismiss it as a novelty instead of a real utility vehicle. But that casual appearance hid one of the most unusual and capable pickup concepts of the 1970s. Unlike most trucks of the era, the BRAT was built around Subaru's flat-four boxer engine and an advanced four-wheel drive system. Early versions produced around 73 horsepower and 94 pound-feet of torque, while later 1.8-liter models pushed closer to 90 horsepower. Those numbers weren't intimidating, but the way the BRAT delivered them was. Power went to all four wheels, giving it traction advantages most pickups of the time simply didn't have. On loose surfaces, snow or dirt roads, the BRAT felt almost unstoppable. But on pavement, its short wheelbase, high center of gravity, and light rear end created a very different experience. Push it hard into a corner, and weight shifted abruptly. Lift off the throttle mid-turn, and the balance could change instantly. It wasn't unstable, but it was unforgiving to drivers who treated it casually. What made the BRAT truly weird wasn't just its mechanical layout. Some models even featured rear-facing jump seats in the truck bed, complete with seatbelts, a decision that would be unthinkable today. It blurred every line between car, truck, and off-road toy. The Subaru BRAT wasn't built to overpower rivals. It was built to go places others couldn't, and to confuse everyone while doing it. 6. Jeep J10 Honcho. The Jeep J10 Honcho didn't blend in. It made a statement the moment it appeared. Bold graphics, oversized tires, and a wide, aggressive stance gave it the presence of a show truck rather than a working pickup. Most people assumed it was all style and attitude, but behind that intimidating look was something far more unusual. The Honcho wasn't just a cosmetic package. It was one of the earliest factory efforts to turn a full-size pickup into a performance-driven statement. Under the hood, the J10 Honcho could be ordered with AMC's V8 engines, most notably the 5.9-liter, 360 cubic inch V8, producing around 195 horsepower and up to 285 pound-feet of torque. Those figures gave the Honcho serious muscle for the mid-1970s, especially during a time when emissions regulations were strangling performance across the industry. Power was sent to the rear, or all four wheels, depending on configuration, making it equally capable on pavement or dirt. But raw strength came with consequences. The Honcho's stiff suspension, tall ride height, and heavy front end made it demanding at speed. Hard acceleration caused the rear to squat aggressively, while sudden steering inputs could overwhelm the chassis. On rough terrain, it felt unstoppable. On the road, especially when pushed, it required respect. This wasn't a truck that forgave mistakes, it magnified them. What made the J10 Honcho truly unusual was its identity crisis. It wasn't just a work truck, and it wasn't just an off-roader. It was a factory-built performance pickup before the idea even had a name. Loud, bold, and unapologetic, it blurred the line between utility and attitude. The Jeep J10 Honcho wasn't subtle, and it wasn't refined. It was a 1970s experiment in excess, a pickup that flexed as hard as it worked and dared drivers to keep it under control. If you're enjoying these rare automotive oddities, hit subscribe, because the next pickups get even rarer, weirder, bigger and more unbelievable. 5. Suzuki Carry ST10 Pickup, 1970s. The Suzuki Carry ST10 didn't immediately register as a real pickup. Compact to the point of absurdity, with an upright stance and minimal proportions, it looked designed for tight streets rather than heavy work. The tiny bed, short wheelbase, and stripped-down body made it easy to underestimate. In an era defined by oversized engines and bold, full-size trucks, the Carry ST10 felt completely out of its depth, and that quiet mismatch is exactly what made it one of the strangest pickups of the 1970s. Built under Japan's K-car regulations, the Carry ST10 used a microscopic engine by global standards, typically a 360cc two-stroke or early four-stroke unit, producing roughly 28 horsepower and about 22 pound-feet of torque. On paper, those numbers sounded almost useless, but in a vehicle this small and light, they created a very different experience. With barely any mass to move, the Carry responded instantly to throttle input, darting forward with surprising urgency at low speeds. The driving experience was raw and unforgiving. With a rear engine or front engine rear-wheel drive layout, depending on configuration, weight distribution was unusual and constantly noticeable. Steering inputs were immediate, braking distances were short but abrupt, and sudden throttle lifts could shift balance instantly. At speed, which felt far faster than the speedometer suggested, the Carry demanded total focus. There was no insulation, no forgiveness, and no room for error. What made the Suzuki Carry ST10 truly weird wasn't performance, it was purpose. This was a pickup stripped down to its absolute essentials, engineered to survive abuse in tight spaces where larger trucks simply couldn't function. It wasn't built to impress, it was built to endure. The Carry ST10 proved that size didn't define danger. In the wrong hands, this tiny pickup could be just as demanding as anything with 10 times the power. And if you think small pickups mean small surprises, the next trucks are about to flip that logic completely upside down. 4. Chevrolet Love, light utility vehicle. The Chevrolet Love never looked like it belonged in the world of big American pickups. Slim, lightweight, and deliberately simple, it seemed built for efficiency rather than raw strength. Parked beside full-size trucks of the era, it felt almost delicate by comparison, inviting people to underestimate it instantly. That quiet, modest image was misleading, because once put to work, the Love revealed a character far more demanding than its appearance suggested. Built by Isuzu and sold under the Chevrolet badge, the Love was powered by compact inline-4 engines, most commonly a 2-liter unit. Output ranged from about 80 horsepower, with torque figures around 95 pound-feet. Those numbers didn't sound impressive, but paired with the truck's low curb weight, they gave the Love a surprisingly eager character. It accelerated more quickly than expected and felt far more responsive than its size suggested. On the road, the Love revealed both its strengths and its dangers. The rear-wheel drive layout and short wheelbase made it lively, especially with an empty bed. Hard throttle inputs could break traction easily, while sudden braking caused noticeable weight transfer. The suspension, tuned more for payload than comfort, could feel harsh and unsettled on uneven pavement, demanding constant driver attention at speed. What made the Chevrolet Love truly weird wasn't its performance, it was its identity. It wasn't quite a traditional American pickup, and it wasn't fully Japanese either. It sat awkwardly between two worlds, combining compact efficiency with truck responsibilities in a way few drivers were prepared for. The Love wasn't built to intimidate, but it didn't need to. Its unpredictability came from how easily it encouraged drivers to push beyond its limits, a reminder that even the smallest pickups of the 1970s could bite back when treated casually. Subscribe and keep watching, because the next pickups prove the 1970s had absolutely no limits. 3. Dodge D50 Plymouth Aero Pickup. The Dodge D50, also known as the Plymouth Aero Pickup, presented itself as practical to the point of being forgettable. Its compact size, lightweight construction, and straightforward styling made it feel closer to an economy car than a traditional truck. Surrounded by loud V8-powered American pickups, it faded easily heavily into the background. But that calm, sensible image disappeared the moment the D50 was pushed beyond what most drivers expected from it. Built by Mitsubishi and rebadged for the American market, the D50 was powered by a range of inline-4 engines, most commonly the 2.6-liter units. Output ranged from roughly 105 horsepower, with torque figures around 120 pound-feet depending on configuration. Those numbers weren't headline-grabbing, but paired with the truck's relatively low weight, they delivered sharper acceleration than many drivers expected. On the road, the D50 felt alert and reactive. The rear-wheel drive layout and short wheelbase meant throttle inputs had immediate consequences. With an empty bed, traction could disappear quickly, and sudden braking caused abrupt weight transfer. The suspension, designed for light hauling, offered limited forgiveness when pushed hard. It wasn't unstable, but it demanded attention and restraint. What made the Dodge D50 truly weird wasn't how it drove, it was what it represented. This was a Japanese-built pickup wearing American badges, quietly reshaping the market while pretending to be ordinary. It blended efficiency, utility, and unexpected liveliness in a way few drivers were prepared for. The D50 wasn't a show truck or a muscle machine. It was something more dangerous. A pickup that looked harmless, drove sharper than expected, and punished anyone who mistook simplicity for safety. 2. International Harvester 1010-1210 Pickup. The International Harvester 1010 and 1210 made no effort to appear refined. Their squared-off shapes, heavy construction, and industrial presence felt closer to farm equipment than passenger vehicles. Nothing about them was designed to impress or entertain. They were built for labor, not excitement. Surrounded by more polished pickups of the era, they seemed crude and slow by comparison. Yet beneath that uncompromising simplicity was a truck that demanded far more respect than its appearance suggested. International Harvester engineered these trucks with durability as the priority, and that meant serious engines. Depending on configuration, buyers could get inline-6s or large displacement V8s, most notably the 345 cubic inch V8s. In V8 form, output reached roughly 170 horsepower, with torque figures climbing to around 300 pound-feet, delivered low in the rev range and without hesitation. This wasn't smooth, refined power. It was heavy, mechanical force. On the road, that torque changed everything. The 1010 and heavier-duty 1210 carried significant mass, and once momentum built, it was difficult to control quickly. Acceleration felt relentless rather than fast, and braking distances were long by modern standards. The suspension, designed for payload rather than comfort, transferred every bump directly to the driver. Sudden steering inputs or emergency corrections could overwhelm the chassis, especially at speed. What made these trucks dangerous wasn't agility, it was inertia. Treat them casually, and they reminded you how little margin for error existed. With stiff leaf springs, recirculating ball steering, and minimal driver aids, control depended entirely on experience and anticipation. The International Harvester 1010 and 1210 weren't weird because they experimented. They were weird because they refused to. Built like industrial tools and powered by relentless torque, they were pickups that demanded respect and punished anyone who underestimated the consequences of their sheer mass and mechanical force. 1. GMC Sprint SP Caballero Diablo. The GMC Sprint SP, later called the Caballero Diablo, sat in an awkward space between categories. Its long nose, low roof, and car-based proportions made it feel closer to a performance coupe than a working pickup. To many, it seemed confused and impractical, a vehicle that couldn't decide what it wanted to be. That identity crisis wasn't a weakness, it was exactly what made it so unpredictable. Under the skin, the Sprint SP shared its platform with GM's mid-size performance cars, and the engine options reflected that pedigree. Buyers could opt for serious V8 power, including the 5.7-liter 350 cubic inch V8, producing up to 175 horsepower and around 270 pound-feet of torque in the emissions-choked 1970s. Those numbers may seem modest today, but paired with rear-wheel drive and a relatively light chassis, they delivered unmistakable muscle car behavior. On the road, the Sprint felt nothing like a traditional pickup. Acceleration was smooth but forceful, and throttle inputs could easily break rear traction, especially with an empty bed. The long wheelbase helped stability at speed, but sudden braking or mid-corner corrections exposed the car-based suspension's limits. It was comfortable, fast, and deceptively capable, until pushed just a little too far. What made the Sprint SP truly weird wasn't its performance, it was its identity. This was a pickup that encouraged aggressive driving, blending muscle car power with cargo space in a way no one quite knew how to handle. It didn't behave like a truck, and it didn't forgive mistakes like one either. The GMC Sprint SP and Caballero Diablo weren't experiments gone wrong. They were experiments ahead of their time. Proof that the 1970s were wild enough to build a pickup that dared drivers to forget it was carrying a bed at all. These weren't just pickups. They were rolling experiments, built in an era when rules were loose, ideas were reckless, and nobody cared if it made sense, only that it existed. Stick around and subscribe, because what's coming next pushes these pickups from strange into outright unbelievable. And that wraps up our journey through some of the rarest and weirdest pickups of the 1970s. They weren't perfect, they weren't practical, and they were never built to survive modern rules. These trucks came from a time when manufacturers took real risks, mixing ideas, breaking categories, and building machines that didn't need to make sense. Most were forgotten, some were misunderstood, but all of them proved one thing: the 1970s weren't afraid to be weird, and maybe that's exactly what made them special. If you enjoyed this dive into forgotten automotive legends, hit like, subscribe for more rare and unusual vehicles, and comment below which pickup surprised you the most.